Hi, everyone. Welcome to the What in the World is Dyscalculia podcast. I am the host of the podcast, Dr. Honora Wall, and What in the World is Dyscalculia is sponsored by EduCalc Learning. If you visit educalclearning.com, you can find out a lot of great training and free information as well about the math learning disability. You can also visit our nonprofit, the Dyscalculia Training and Research Institute. That's the DTRI.org. And you can find lots of great information there about dyscalculia and about NBD math. But first, what I want to talk about in today's podcast is a conversation we've had a few times, but it doesn't seem to be going anywhere. And that is the conversation about offering accommodations for students, especially whether or not they have that official paperwork. So this came about today because of a conversation this morning with a colleague who helps families whose children are struggling in school for a wide variety of reasons. And we were discussing one particular student and getting them the right accommodations. And of course, it's a little bit of a struggle with their school because this student transferred from a different state, the paperwork is in flux, and it's causing some issues. And within that conversation, my colleague and I discussed the accommodations her daughter receives in school. Now, her family, would rather not do diagnostic testing. They are not interested in labeling their child, which is very valid and a family decision and something a lot of people worry about. So they know she has tendencies that indicate dyslexia and that she does exceptionally well when she has unlimited time. So for state testing, for AP classes, for any standardized test, unlimited time really works best for her. And she can score at the top level of any one of those tests. If it's a 5 on a state test or on an AP test or the highest grade in the class, she has a track record of doing very well. Well, her school is changing their approach right now, and they are removing the unlimited time they gave everyone after COVID, and they're putting some structure back around their testing time limits, and they don't want to give this student unlimited time anymore because she does not have a diagnosis and therefore does not have an IEP or a 504 plan, even though the school is well aware that she uses every moment of that extended time. It's definitely, clearly an appropriate accommodation for her. But now this family is having to have this conversation and this fight. And that really is what I want you to reflect on in this podcast. Why do we make it so difficult for students to use accommodations that are helpful for them? When we can see as educators, when students are engaged, when they're trying, that an accommodation, whether it's extended time, calculator use, notes, for memory triggers during assessments, whatever is best for them, um, we know that it's beneficial. We know it allows them to display knowledge at their best appropriate level. Why do we have to argue so hard to get students this kind of help? It's very frustrating. If you work with students who have learning disabilities, dyscalculia or dyslexia, dysgraphia, ADHD, autism, if you have students who have depressive disorders or anxiety disorders, then you've seen this too. You've seen that they are fully capable, average to above average intelligence, and that they are invested and they're trying as hard as they can. So not letting them have the right accommodations. I'm not talking about interventions. That's different. I'm talking about accommodations, especially during assessments. When we don't let them do that, it's like blocking off the wheelchair ramp in front of City Hall. We are creating the barrier that stops the person with the disability from accessing in a fair and equitable, appropriate manner. So we're clearly going against federal law at this stage. And that's That's not what schools are trying to do. I know that schools are trying to do everything that they can and that they want their students to be successful. So, why do we have this disconnect? And the disconnect is very school and district specific. I work with students and families and educators across the country, and every place you go has a slightly different approach. So, the kind of support a student gets is usually more tied to where they live. And I'm not even talking about socioeconomic neighborhoods. I'm talking about your district, your state, your region, your specific school, be it private or public, might have their own approach. And it might be very easy to get the school and the teacher on board with the right accommodations. Not a problem at all. I do have that happen in quite a few places. Those are great success stories. And those students do very, very well. I have a student with dyscalculia. I've talked about her on this podcast before, who has been lucky enough to get the right accommodations without too much of a fight at this stage. We've been having these conversations for years. This is a military family, so every time there's a new place they have to move to, we have the same conversation with the new schools and the new teachers. But we've been very lucky to get her accommodations. Well, she's in high school now. She's on the honor roll in the Honor Society, taking upper level math and science classes and doing great because her accommodations work for her and allow her to demonstrate knowledge. When they are taken away, she immediately drops down to a low C, maybe a high D on occasion level for her assessments. And with the right accommodations, she's a high B, sometimes even a low A consistently. So that does happen. And then we see the students succeed. When the opposite happens, and we just have these barriers and these arguments, and it's gone on for 9 weeks or 12 weeks, or we're into the third section of the grade book of the year, and we haven't done anything to support the student properly. Now we have a real issue, especially in high school, because now we're not earning credits needed for graduation. So accommodations are not just legally protected and appropriate, tied to research. All of that is true. But not having those accommodations is a real barrier to high school graduation. And of course, then whether or not a person goes on to college and how successful they are in higher education. So we're causing some real long-term impact in addition to the short-term impact. So what do we do? Let's have more conversations with the teachers that your student interacts with, teachers who are your colleagues if you're working in a school. Talk to the district, go to school board meetings and bring this up. Talk to the school principal, find some materials that can be used as references either on my websites, educalclearning.com or www.thedtri.org. You can look up LDA, you can look up Understood, you can look up the researchers yourself on Google Scholar, lots of places where we can get this information because it's valid. That's why you can find it everywhere. Get that information to the people in charge of accommodations, and let's have these conversations in schools. Let's try not to make it such a fight. Let's give kids the support they need so that they can succeed. For dyscalculia, those appropriate accommodations are going to include either a multiplication list or a 1 to 100s chart in elementary grades, multiplication list calculator, really from 4th or 5th grade up. They're going to include extended time, and we need to train students how to use that time. They're going to include paper and pencil or oral assessment, something that gives them different methods of showing their knowledge. And they're going to include using notes during the assessments. That could be guided notes, worked examples if those are working for a student, notes that the student puts together, reminding themselves, where did they usually get stuck? What are the memory triggers they need? How do they match a formula with a problem type so that they can apply it and show you what they know. Those are some of our standard accommodations I recommend for dyscalculia. If you'd like to know more, or if you have other questions, comments, or concerns, please find me on any of the socials. I'm on Instagram. We have a teacher support group on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok. You can leave a comment here wherever you're listening to the podcast, and you can email me, Honora, HONORA, at thedtri.org. Remember, accommodations are free. You can just give them out like Halloween candy without any monetary investment on your part. Just help your students see where they succeed and where they are better able to show you what they've learned. And then we can truly make a difference in the lives of students with dyscalculia. Thank you so much for listening to What in the World is Dyscalculia. I hope that you're getting some good knowledge from the podcast. If you have any other topics you'd like me to talk about, let me know. And thanks for listening.